Hi, this is Hannah Simmeroth, and today I am going to be talking about nuclear bombs, how they are made, and the process of releasing a nuclear bomb and the history of a nuclear bomb. So the first nuclear bomb was created and tested in 1945. The first time a nuclear bomb was used was on August 6, 1945, when the U.S. dropped the bomb on the city of Hiroshima during World War II, which ended up ending the war. They dropped two, actually, and that was the first ever nuclear bomb to be released and dropped. So nuclear bombs involve strong and weak forces that hold the nucleus of an atom together, especially atoms with unstable nuclei. There are two basic ways that nuclear energy can be released from an atom. Those ways are in nuclear fission, which scientists split the nucleus of an atom into two smaller fragments with a neutron, and then nuclear fusion, which is the process by which the sun produces energy, and it involves bringing together two smaller atoms to form a larger one. So in both of these, large amounts of heat energy and radiation are released. So the main components of a nuclear bomb are the fissile material, a neutron source, and a reflector. The fissile material is what undergoes fission. The neutron source initiates the reaction, and the reflector directs the neutrons back into the fissile material. The isotope uranium-235 is responsible for the nuclear fission. So uranium-235 is one of the few materials that can undergo induced fission, which is why it is always associated with the nuclear bomb. Instead of waiting more than 700 million years for uranium to naturally decay, this element can be broken down much faster if a neutron runs into its nucleus, and that is why it's able to be used for the nuclear bomb. The nucleus will then absorb the neutron immediately and will become unstable and split. And then as soon as the nucleus captures the neutron, it splits into two lighter atoms and then throws off 2 or 3 new neutrons. And then the two lighter atoms then emit gamma radiation as they settle into their new states. So in a fission bomb, the fuel must be kept in a separate subcritical mass that will not support fission to prevent premature detonation. So critical mass is the minimum mass of fissionable material required to sustain a nuclear fission reaction. So if the amount of material is below the critical mass, the reaction will die out and will not work. There are two main types of nuclear bomb designs. There's gun type and implosion type. In a gun type design, two subcritical pieces of fissile material are brought together to achieve a supercritical mass. And then in the implosion type design, a subcritical sphere of fissile material is compressed using conventional explosives to achieve a supercritical mass. The design must allow as much of the material as possible to be fissioned before the bomb explodes. This happens by confining the fission reaction within a dense material, which is called a tamper, which is usually made of uranium-238. The tamper gets heated and expands by the fission core. The expansion of the tamper puts pressure back on the fission core and slows the core's expansion. And then the tamper also reflects neutrons back into the fission core, increasing the efficiency of the fission reaction. So detonating a nuclear weapon can cause extreme destruction. So the detonation of a nuclear bomb over a target, which is usually like a very populated city, is going to cause immense damage. So the degree of the damage depends upon the distance from the center of the bomb blast, which is called the hypocenter. So the closer you are to the hypocenter, the more severe the damage will be. And the damage is caused by different things, such as like the wave of intense heat from the explosion, pressure from the shock wave created by the blast, the radiation and radioactive fallout, which would include clouds of radioactive particles of dust and bomb debris that fall back to the ground. And then at the hypocenter, everything is immediately vaporized by the high temperature, which can be up to 500 million degrees Fahrenheit. And then farther out from the hypocenter, most casualties are caused by burns from the heat, injuries from the flying debris caused by the shock wave, and then the exposure to the high radiation. So beyond that immediately blasted area, casualties are caused from the heat and the radiation, and then the fires that are caused from the heat wave. So in the long term, radioactive fallout occurs over a wider area because of the winds, and the radioactive fallout particles enter the water supply and are inhaled and ingested by people who are very far from the blast. And scientists have studied survivors of the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombings to understand the short-term and long-term effects of the nuclear explosions. And the radiation and radioactive fallout affect those cells in the body that actively divide, like your hair, your bone marrow, reproductive organs, intestines. And so those health conditions that come from that are like nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, cataracts, hair loss, and then it can also increase your risk of leukemia, cancer, infertility, and birth defects. So in the 1980s, scientists assessed the possible effects of nuclear warfare and proposed a theory that a nuclear winter could occur. And then in the nuclear winter scenario, the explosion of many bombs would raise great clouds of dust and radioactive material that would travel high into the Earth's atmosphere. And then that cloud would block out sunlight, and then the reduced sunlight would lower the surface temperature of the planet and reduce photosynthesis by plants and bacteria. And then the reduction of the photosynthesis would disrupt the food chain, causing mass extinction of life, including humans, which is a similar scenario and concept to that of what they think with the asteroids and the extinction of dinosaurs. So the nuclear weapons have very incredible long-term destructive power that can travel way beyond what was in just the target. And that's why the government tries to control the spread of nuclear bomb-making technology and materials and reduce nuclear weapons being deployed. It's also why nuclear tests conducted by like North Korea and other countries spark such a concern across the world. So you hear a lot about when there's tests or nuclear bombs being set off for testing across the world, and that is because it can be so detrimental. But it all comes from a chemical reaction involving uranium and the process of fission and fusion, and that is what creates the nuclear bomb.